Good morning, guys. I just got to work and sitting down outside, big open field at the back of the parking lot at the dealership, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to place my phone. I need to get one of those mounts for the window. So basically, the last week I've been doing a lot of fasting. And I've been kind of fasting my own way, not really following anybody's particular recommendation. And I'm right at 10 pounds lost right now. Um, it's working well for me. The shocking part about all of it is when people don't agree with how you're doing things, they almost want to collectively fix something that doesn't need to be fixed. If you are fasting and you're trying to approach something from a health perspective and drop as much weight as possible, one of the goals would be to get as much fat off your body as possible. One of the things that body weight in general, or the amount of fat around your midsection in general, indicates is insulin resistance. So the more that you can reduce the amount of insulin spiking and blood sugar increase is much greater to the effect to your health than the whole perspective of autophagy in general. What is autophagy? It's basically where your good cells eat your bad cells, and a number of things can start to happen. It's like your body's cleansing mechanism of its entire system. But first and foremost, blood sugar decreasing and insulin secretion decreasing is the most optimal approach to anything when it comes to blood sugar related concerns, weight concerns, different types of metabolic issues, and things of this nature. So, when I tell people that I'm fasting and I'm drinking water and adding salt to my water, I'm sleeping good, I'm working fine, I add some stock to my, like a big giant jar of stock, chicken stock, before I go to bed, just makes me feel good. Um, Thank you. I appreciate that. Uh, I do my own thing my way. And you have people that will approach you and pop forward and they'll say, well, Dr. Jason Fung says this, and Dr. So and so, or keto YouTuber so and so says this. What these people need to understand is each one of these people that collectively have their own opinions and ways of doing things are just their theory. It's things that they have come up with along the way that work for them and seem to work for other people. There's not a single person that any of you follow that can tell you 100% this is how this happens. There's nobody that can tell you 100% the autophagy process is turned off as soon as you start drinking 50 calories or 70 calories of bone broth before you go to bed. Little do most people know, you don't have to be in a fasted state for autophagy to happen. It's a normal bodily function that has to be happening 24/7 around the clock to rid viruses, to rid different bacteria and stuff that have your body has to go through a process of breaking down and ridding this stuff out of itself. So this process of eliminating foreign bodies and bad cells and stuff like that, it's going on 24/7. Your body can never stop doing that. It is a normal function. When you get into a fasted state, when you reduce the amount of insulin spiking and blood sugar, regardless of what it is, your body seems to increase and almost amplify that autophagy process. So I get how any amount of calories in general can decrease that. And if you're in a 24-hour fast or something like that, your objective would be to reduce the amount of calories to none, to really increase and amplify the autophagy process of things. And I understand how a 24-hour fast, you would be a little bit more strict and say, I'm not going to have nothing but water and salt. I want the next 24 hours to just be absolutely 100% perfect. But let's look at the long-term effect of going 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of fasting. So, do you think that I should jeopardize the amount of time that I'm fasting and decrease the 70 calories of bone broth before I go to bed? When I'm looking at the grand scheme of things here, how much cleaning have I been doing? How much ridding of body weight and water and bad cells and stuff have I amplified in those 5 days, those 6 days, those 7 days of just adding some bone broth in before I go to bed, or chicken stock before I go to bed, just to make me feel that that sated, that something nice, different flavor, salty flavor going on my mouth that's going to make me comfortable to continue on the next day, to continue on another 24 hours before I have another 70, 100 calories, whatever it is, of chicken stock or bone broth. How much cleaning and health rejuvenating am I doing during that 24-hour period before I do that again? It's crazy the amount. You temporarily bring yourself back out or reduce the autophagy process or cleansing process by very, very, very minute forms. And then you put yourself right back in within just hours, because it takes nothing for your body to burn through 100 calories and put it right back in that state of complete form cleaning, just right back to where it was. So when you look at the bigger picture, when you respond to people's messages and stuff on social media, when you're there to be there for them and go through their journey, if one of the first things that you feel like you need to do is correct something that they're doing that's working for them, you probably should step back a second and say, wait a second, I just need to support this person and help this person, and they are moving in the right direction. So whatever my theory is on what I should be doing or shouldn't be doing, or they should or shouldn't be doing, it's irrelevant right now, because they are working on themselves, their own individual journey, and they're doing something that most people could not do. They're doing something that most people would not even have the drive to complete and follow through. So take a step back for a second sometimes before you want to correct and say things to somebody and say, you know what? That's a pretty stand-up thing that person's doing right now. I don't know that I could do that. I don't know that I could go 5 days straight and add a little chicken stock or bone broth in before I go to bed, and then wake up the next day and continue my life and go another, full entire day before I do that again with no food, no nothing other than just 70 calories or 100 calories of bone broth going into my body before I go to bed. That's pretty difficult to do. And if that person feels great doing it and loses weight doing it and they're feeling just fabulous, I don't need to be retracting from that person's life. I need to be supporting them and saying, hey, as long as you're safe, as long as you feel good and you're hydrating and you're keeping your electrolyte levels and stuff up, I'm only here to support you, because you're doing what you feel like you individually need to do. And if other people jump on board and they see that it's for them, great. You've just impacted somebody else's life. You've done something for them that maybe somebody else couldn't have done. Or maybe the approach of, oh, you can't drink that bone broth, or you can't add that no-calorie diet soda in, or something like that, would have stopped them from even attempting or trying that. 2 days ago, I drank a Bang energy drink because they're, 0 calorie. They don't mess with my blood sugar or anything like that. I was kind of going through that dump phase where you get to that second and third day, and then all of a sudden things have to change a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to grab one. I know it doesn't mess with my blood sugar, and I know that's not the typical way you fast, but if I can keep going and not have my blood sugar spike and keep my insulin levels low, that's the most critical before anything. That's what I'd like to do. And I drank it. I continued on, and I'm completely fine. I have no issues, and I'm still losing weight, 9.5 pounds in 5 days. And that's just amazing to me. I feel great. My pants are buttoning now where they were kind of tight before. I don't have to fight them. So just 9.5 pounds of mainly water weight has made me feel great. And my knees don't hurt as much anymore. I'm sleeping better and stuff like that. And if I can continue on, why not continue on? Why stop because somebody says, well, Dr. Jason Fung says you can't do it that way, or you can't have that diet soda every once in a while. Save it, man. Save it. Save it. You guys don't realize when you do that type of stuff how much you're actually pulling back from somebody's journey, how much you're actually retracting from the health that they're probably completing on their own in their own way of doing things, and it seems to be working for them just because you've listened to something that somebody else says and you wholeheartedly believe in it. Save it. You're not a fasting guru. You're not a medical doctor. You probably don't even know completely about everything that you're talking about. You're just regurgitating something that somebody else has taught you and said. So is it ideally the right thing to do to push that into somebody else's life and say, you're doing that wrong, don't do that way? It's part of the reason why I've been staying off social media a lot lately, because a lot of people are just full of shit, to be honest with you. A lot of people, they talk about things like they understand things, and they clearly don't. The message that I'm about to get into, I'm just starting to understand. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to talk about SIBO. I'm going to talk a little bit about Gerd. I'm going to talk about potassium. I'm going to talk about a situation that's going on with a friend of mine right now that I've been dealing with online. I'm not dealing with it. I'm just listening and brainstorming some things. And I can tell you right now, firsthand, I probably understand it more than most people do, but I still don't even completely understand it. And even the studies that I have read on it, they still clearly don't point out that there is a fix for it, and they understand it. It's just things that people research and talk about. We don't have the answers for everything, and a lot of us need to back up a second and realize Dr. Jason Fung is his own animal. He's a brilliant, mastermind kind of guy. I'll give him that, but he does not have the answer to everything. Dr. Berry and Berg and all these other Yahoo keto doctors and carnivore doctors and stuff, they don't have the answer for everything. They only can give you what they know somewhat works and then make a best recommendation based off that. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. You either follow people, you take bits and pieces of information from each one of them, and you use it to make your own journey what it is. I get so sick and tired of seeing people correct each other online so much that I just don't even want to be on social media anymore. Like, you don't realize the damage you do in people's lives. If they find something that works for them, let them do it. I don't care if they're sniffing a line of cocaine every single day. If they're losing weight and it's something that's not taking away from their life and it's actually healing them, and it's legal for that matter wherever they're at, which I know it's not. I'm just using it as an analogy. Leave them alone. Let them sniff that line every time they get a damn chance if they want to, if that's making their life better. And it is what it is. I don't care what somebody else does anymore. The only time I correct somebody online is if I see they're putting out information that there are facts on. I might make a suggestion or correct something, but that's it. I don't want to stop somebody else from achieving their goals in life. I don't want to stop you or the next person from achieving their goals in life. If you need to do something to make yourself happy and it's working for you, then do it. That's it. Now, the situation that I'm dealing with right now, I have not seen Cole Robinson's new video. I like Cole, but I don't like Cole. I've had some interactions with Cole. When Cole, right after Cole first started his group, the online, on Facebook, I had went on there and they were making some recommendations for somebody that had high blood pressure, and they were saying something about 7,000 or 8,000 milligrams of sodium or something like that. And Cole had said something, or one of the admin had responded to them. And then they had followed up with another question, and nobody was answering the question. I had watched it sit there for hours with nobody responding. So I actually popped up and I said, hey, I've been doing this a little bit longer than Cole. I don't have the results that Cole has. Me and him are similar in age and mindset, the way we think about things, except I just express things a little bit different than him. He's tailored that crowd that likes the crazy, the out, like the lashing out and just chewing people up. I will do that at times, but not to the extent that he does. And I just can't get into it like he does. I can't yell at the screen and do all the crazy stuff. But what he does works. And I had left a response to what the question was of the person. And I said, look, you're taking medication right now. Your blood pressure's up. Your sugar looks like it's a little bit unstable and out of control. I don't know that I would start out with 7,000 to 8,000 milligrams of sodium. I would probably start somewhere ballpark 2,500 milligrams, 3,000 milligrams, and see how that works and how that looks in your life, and then adjust off of that. And then maybe if the first week passes and you're fine at 3,000, bump it up 500. See how you do for the next 2 or 3 weeks, getting used to that amount of sodium. And if you feel good off that, if things feel better for you, then bumping up another 500. See where your happy spot is, because every single person doesn't take in sodium and get rid of sodium the same. Some of us have affected our organs, our metabolic system a little bit different. That's what you need to adjust off of, is your own specific life and journey and how you react to things. And one of the admin popped up and said, this is Cole Robinson's group. This is not your group. You are not going to give the answers and stuff here, and muted me and booted me out of the group. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This is ridiculous. Like, I can't even help somebody else out because I understand something and nobody's answering their questions. And I would probably be a very, very good candidate to explain the situation and how different roles and stuff play in a simple way. But because I wasn't Cole, so at that point, I started getting really annoyed with what was going on in Cole's life and what Cole was doing, because I seen this madness behind this cult-like following. And a lot of people, it's not hard to drink water, put some salt in your water, and just don't eat food fatty and just lose weight. That's pretty freaking simple. But when it comes to down to understanding the health part of it, the non-coaching side that Cole's really good at, the non-fasting recommendation stuff that Cole's really good at, when it comes down to the health and the mechanisms and how things work, Cole doesn't understand that stuff. I've listened to Cole talk about it hours and hours and hours and hours before I finally drew up my conclusion. When it comes to fasting, I am going to push people his way. I am going to recommend snake juice. I am going to recommend his criteria. But when it comes to actually health-related concerns and stuff like that, I don't recommend him even in the least bit. He's not even on the radar for that. That's not stuff that he understands. He's a coach. He's a trainer. He's a fasting guru. But when it outside of that, that is not Cole's forte. I've listened to him talk to people about being on a keto diet and how it causes your muscles to your body to catabolize your muscles and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about with that stuff. No clue, none. So I move on from that side of Cole, and I just don't really focus on his videos and stuff anymore. I've been doing this just as long, if not longer, than him. I just obviously came to social media a little late. Now, I want to move on to a situation that's going on with a friend of mine right now. He has this unexpected blood pressure rise, just out of nowhere. I mean, it will go from normal to 205 over 103 just out of nowhere, and just bam, in the hospital. And there's no warning. There's no indication that anything's going on. It literally just comes out of nowhere. And I'm trying to figure out and give recommendations on what could be going on. Now, I know he's dealt with Gerd. I know that he has dealt with some digestive issues and stuff in the past. I know that he's dealt with a number of medical things. So recently, I'm starting to look into more and more of this stuff. This morning, I get up and I find an interesting article that talks about how potassium can play an important factor on the release of too much acid on the different channel sites for basically potassium to latch onto. When potassium latches onto these little nodes or channel sites, there's 3 of them that are already noted. They could actually cause you to start secreting acid when your body doesn't need to secrete acid. So if you're taking a potassium supplement and you're drinking it and it kind of gets in the esophageal area, it can actually latch onto these little nodes and cause acid secretion when it doesn't need to be going on. And you're activating channel sites to secrete acid, and it's causing more of a GERD-like effect. So potassium can be a potential benefit and a downfall in certain situations and how you take potassium. Some people need to get potassium more from supplements because they can't eat 2.5, 3 pounds of meat or food per day to equate to the amount of potassium the body needs to be sufficient. The good thing about potassium is your body has a way of holding on to potassium for more than, a short period of time. Like sodium's in and out of the body fairly quick. Your body can actually hold on to potassium. It can regulate the release and the amount that it intakes and secretes. But when you have potassium deficiencies, these can create a number of things. Either they can create high blood pressure, they can create low blood hyperkalemia, hypokalemia. There's a number of things that can happen. And if you take too much potassium, you can make your blood pressure plummet. I mean, just drop completely down, just like you almost feel like you're going to pass out. If you take too much, you can speed your heart rate up too much, and it can get all out of whack. So then I have to start looking at, he's dealing with GERD, he's on a number of medications, the digestive tract issue as well. He's talking about the possible inflammation in digestive tract. I'm talking about leaky gut, digestive issues, things like that seem to have gone away. But he said from a number of years of abuse of the digestive tract and stuff in general, he's sure that he still has some issues there. But through the nutritional profile of his labs, it's not looking like there is a deficiency there. Now, there are some specific tests to see if some things are going on. You can get SIBO tests. There's a number of things your doctors can do, like a colonoscopy, and look at things to look for ulcers and things of this nature, look for the inflammation that may be very apparent by the lining of the digestive tract, the intestinal wall, and stuff like that. And there are multiple parts of the small intestine and large intestine. the rectum, the small intestine has like 4 parts to it. I play video games on my phone. Yes, I do. But I don't play video games on like Xbox or anything like that. I started playing Call of Duty on my phone. Sorry for the random question I wanted to answer. Let's move on. There are multiple parts of the small intestine. There are multiple parts of the large intestine. And what ends up happening is the old theory was if you ate meat all the time and you're on this carnivore diet, you can get the SIBO-like effect. And the reason the original theory was is because the original theory that came to me. Raja, I'm going to finish this video first before I start answering questions about video games. So let me continue on the health stuff before I do any of that. I appreciate it. Eating meat all the time and not ingesting fiber, the theory was if you don't have fiber to feed the different bacteria sites, bacteria will actually transfer into the small intestine. It will travel up from the large intestine into the small intestine, and it will overpopulate. And it will cause a lot of issues. It'll cause a lot of digestive issues because it will start taking and breaking down nutrients before it actually gets to where it's going, because that bacteria is not being fed properly. Because fiber is not getting to the different parts. There's different nutrients that are not getting to the different parts. Well, then if you read back on it now and you see SIBO, there are different sites that say actually that's not true. Adding fibrous material and stuff like that can actually cause the digestive issues to get worse. Colitis, gastroenteritis, different things like that. So in a situation like this, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Where do you go from there? Where's the next step? If you're doing everything that you can and you're following the literature and multiple standpoints, this just goes to prove that there's just so many different recommendations and pieces of information out there that you need to be your own critic. You have to be your own detective. You have to try to figure these things out for yourself, because there's just too much conflicting evidence that this study will say this, that study will say that. This study says that if you drink too much potassium and you've got Gerd, or if you're drinking it in supplement form, you can make the Gerd worse. So basically with this video, I just wanted to explain some things to you guys about how to be your own detective, where things can get complicating by looking at different studies, and the different types. I'm one of the original ones on social media that started talking about being on a carnivore diet with the potassium electrolyte deficiency. And everybody at first started talking to me, oh, you're this, you're full of crap, you're all this, Sean Becker says this, Saladino says this, Barry says this, and then guess what happens? All these people start ending up in the hospital and leaving me messages on my potassium deficiency. Oh my God, you were right. Like I was in the hospital and my potassium was bottomed out because you're not eating enough. And if you can't eat pounds and pounds and pounds of meat every single day, you're not going to get to the potassium levels that you can. You have to supplement potassium and sodium if you're a smaller person or you can't eat a lot of carnivorous food, but you want to be on a carnivorous diet. This is a fact. This cannot be negated. This is not going to be argued. I was like the first one that actually came out warning potassium deficiency on carnivore. Check it out. Picture of a heart with the red inflammation around it to let people know it can be a very good diet, but at the same time, you need to be very careful. And there was like the first year that my video was out, there was like over a dozen people that messaged me and said, you know what, you were right. I ended up in the hospital. Now I wish I would have found this video before then, and I wouldn't have listened to everybody else. And this all goes back to me telling you, you have to be your own critic. You have to be your own researcher. These people don't have all the answers for everything. They might be knowledgeable, but there's a lot that they miss at the same time. There's a lot that they don't think about at the same time. They're trying to tailor their message to the masses. They're not so much worried about one individual person because they want to help as many people as possible. I get it. That's when people like me, the small YouTubers and stuff, that where I have my own groups, I deal with people and stuff like they go through this type of stuff. I deal with the stuff on a daily basis where people like my buddy coming to me with, hey, why all of a sudden, no warning, no nothing, my blood pressure just drops out of nowhere. And then I try to be a detective. I try to look at the different mechanisms that help control and regulate this type of stuff. I try to be the one in their lives that's dealing with that stress with them so I can come and share with you guys what I found. So look at things individually. Don't look at things like this person said this, this has to be fact. Barry said this, this has to be fact. Paul said this, this has to be fact. No, it's not. It simply works for them. It simply works for what they do in the line of work that they do. It does not work for everybody. I've had people come to me and say, hey, look, I've tried doing this whole nose to tail approach like Paul is talking about. It's just not working for me. I'm not getting all the nutrients that I'm supposed to be getting. Well, obviously, you still have some kind of leaky gut. Obviously, you're still dealing with some kind of metabolic issues that need to be addressed. Are you taking collagen peptides? Are you, is the fibrous foods making it worse? Is what types of food trigger things? Is it pork? Is it fish? Are you eating a lot of fatty meat? Maybe you don't need to be on such a high fat carnivore style diet. Maybe you need to be on more of a protein style carnivore diet. So there's a number of things that can go on here that people don't look at. I find that me on a higher protein carnivore diet and not so much fat works better for me. Last night when I was online, somebody said, is there a such thing as a higher protein keto diet and not a high fat? Well, somebody replied right away and said, no, if you look at rabbit starvation, that's a thing. Well, why would you recommend, or why would you even bring up rabbit starvation when somebody's asking if obviously certain people that claim knowledge over things that they think they know they're talking about, they don't. Rabbit starvation was a simple term made from people that eat the majority of their nutrition from rabbits, and it's very lean meat. It doesn't have enough fat. Your body will basically catabolize itself at that point, and you'll die. Rabbit starvation comes from extremely lean meat. You could have, what was my analogy? My analogy was, you could have 80 grams of fat and 120 grams of protein per day, and your fat to protein ratio by calories and by percent is still phenomenal. But some people would be like, why are you trying to eat 120, 140, 160 grams of protein and only 80 grams of fat? Well, for one, I might have fat on my body that I need to lose, and I might not need so much dietary fat because I want my body to start pulling from its stores more than it is dietary. Maybe I simply just react better to a higher protein carnivore diet than I do fatty cuts of meat all the time. That's not always the answer. So if you look at the very definition by calorie, if you look at what is 9 times 9 is 81, 9 times 8, 72, 63. So 630 calories from 80 grams of fat versus, let's look at 140 grams of protein. So if I'm doing 140 grams of protein at 560, so I'm still 630 calories of fat and 560 calories of protein, even at those numbers, just ballpark. That's still a very good fat to protein ratio. I still have substantially higher calories from fat than I do my protein. Rabbit starvation would be like if I had 160 grams of protein plus and I dropped my fat levels down to like 50 to 60 grams of fat per day. Then I would really have to start worrying about it because your calories from your protein would be substantially higher than your fat calories. So when you're looking at the amount of protein versus fat calories you're getting, you can start to really see that rabbit starvation is almost impossible to get because we would never be down 50, 60, 70 grams of fat. Most people are substantially into like the 120, 140 range. So a higher protein ketogenic diet is very doable. We don't look at things the appropriate way in the way that they should be looked at because a lot of people think they have the answers for everything and they actually understand the things that they're talking about, and they really don't. They really do not understand what they're talking about. They don't understand the medical terminology. They don't understand really what leaky gut is. They don't understand what insulin secretion and sensitivities and the different forms of autophagy and how to get through the different levels of blood glucose depleting and then muscle glycogen depleting and then glucagon release and depleting of glucagon before you actually get into a full-blown fasted state. A lot of people don't understand that stuff. So make this journey your own individual journey and understand you. Understand what needs to be done in your life and what works for you. And don't get so involved in other people's lives until you're ready to see that your answer is not their answer. And that you're open-minded to trying to help them figure out what's wrong with them in a non know-it-all kind of way, because their journey is different than yours. So if you're inserting yourself into somebody else's life, you need to come to that person's life in a neutral standpoint and realize you're starting from ground zero with them. You're not starting from what you know or what you recommend and all this other stuff. You learn their life, you learn what they're dealing with, you ask them lots and lots of questions about their journey, the medications that they're taking, if you even feel comfortable doing that, and you specify, look, I'm not a doctor, I just want to help you, I want to be part of your life. So let's talk about this. Let's brainstorm. Let's figure out your journey, and I'm here for you when you need me. Let me know. Let me know what you want to talk about, and then I'll try to help you find an answer. That's it. Bottom line. Y'all, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to make some money today. This last week was kind of slow. I appreciate you sticking around as long as you have, and thank you for your support. We are about to hit 3,000 subscribers. Lovely. I was at 2,999 this morning when I woke up. I'm ecstatic. I never thought I would have made it this far, but I appreciate every one of you. Be blessed. I love you, and have a great day. I'm going to get in here. They probably need me. I'm about 15 minutes late, but it's Saturday, and I'm not really supposed to be here anyway. So anyhow, be blessed, guys. I love you all. Take care.